Snuggies instead as a comfort blanket. Instead, I like Lorraine Schwartz, which is a problem.
The rings,
What? Sorry, we're not serious today. For me, wardrobe is always the way that I enter a character. I'm a very shy person, so if I look a certain way, then I can escape into that. Like in stuff today, I don't dress like this in real life, but like I'm having to like do interviews and talk, so I'm gonna wear like a crazy pattern, really crazy rings. Also are like my comfort blanket. It's just a very expensive comfort blanket.
Blake Lively's lawsuit has taken a shocking turn. After months of filings, motions, and public accusations, the court has finally spoken, and what the judge ruled, it's not the victory Lively was hoping for. Her sweeping demands for documents have been cut down. Her accusations of an ongoing smear campaign stopped cold, and her attempt to pull in high-profile names like Perez Hilton denied. Could this series of defeats cripple her case entirely? And is the court finally putting an end to what many are calling a reckless legal fishing expedition? Stay tuned, because this fight just got a whole lot more complicated. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and give this video a thumbs up. That way, you won't miss a single update as this courtroom battle unfolds. At the heart of this week's drama is discovery, the stage of a lawsuit where both sides exchange evidence. For Blake Lively, discovery has become her battlefield. She's demanded emails, HR complaints, internal memos, even commentary from journalists and creators. Her claim is simple, that Wayfair, the company at the center of her suit, has engaged in a coordinated smear campaign to destroy her reputation. But here's where things began to unravel. Lively filed what's known as an omnibus motion to compel. Essentially, a demand for the court to force Wayfair to hand over more documents. She wanted access not just to past records, but to current information as of today. In other words, an open pipeline to Wayfair's files stretching months beyond her original complaint. Wayfair's response?
Hi guys, let's talk about Blake Lively's massive PR misstep, in my opinion, but also what it means for the ongoing apparent feud between her and Taylor Swift, and what I think is going to happen when coverage of their rift increases when Taylor Swift likely has songs coming out about Blake Lively and the friendship ending. Okay, as we know, Blake Lively and Taylor Swift, by all accounts, are no longer friends, and Taylor is releasing this album that talks about this song Ruin the Friendship and more. By the way, I will say this, I'm not a Swiftie, just so you guys know.
Sharp and strategic. They argued that most of what she was asking for was already being produced, meaning her request was largely unnecessary. More importantly, they drew a hard line at her attempt to extend the discovery window. Why, they asked, should Lively be entitled to 9 months of additional documents long after she filed her lawsuit? And the judge agreed. In his ruling, he cut off Lively's access at February 18th, the date she filed her amended complaint. Anything after that, the judge declared, was irrelevant to her original claims. His reasoning was clear. Once litigation begins, the company has every right to defend itself. Public statements, press releases, even sharp responses from Wayfair's attorneys, those are not smear campaigns. They're legal defense. Think about what that means. For months, Lively has tried to frame ongoing criticism as part of a coordinated attack, but the court just told her flat out, after February 18th, those arguments no longer stand. This ruling lands like a hammer blow. It strips away one of the central themes of her case, the idea of a continuing conspiracy to discredit her. Now she's locked into a much narrower window, forced to prove her claims based only on older documents. But that wasn't the only setback. Lively also demanded sweeping access to HR complaints inside Wayfair. She wanted to see if other employees had ever accused executives like Jamie Heath or Justin Baldoni of harassment or discrimination. The idea was to show a pattern, to build a broader picture of misconduct, but the judge refused to open the floodgates. Instead, he limited access strictly to complaints tied directly to sexual harassment or discrimination claims relevant to her case. Anything else? Completely off the table. That means no trawling through unrelated disputes. No weaponizing internal grievances that have nothing to do with her allegations. The court drew a line and kept it firmly in place. For Lively, this was another major blow, because without access to unrelated HR files, her ability to portray Wayfair as a company plagued by systemic misconduct has been severely restricted. And the pushback didn't stop there. Lively also attempted to reframe the role of Brian Friedman, Wayfair's high-profile attorney. She argued that Friedman was acting as more than just legal counsel, that he was essentially functioning as an agent in the alleged smear campaign. Her goal was clear. If Friedman could be painted as part of the conspiracy, she might gain access to internal law firm communications. But once again, the court shut it down. The judge ruled that Friedman's statements on behalf of his clients were exactly what lawyers are supposed to do: advocacy, not conspiracy. Attorneys, the court reminded, are expected to defend their clients vigorously, especially when cases attract public attention. This part of the ruling has broad implications. It protects not just Friedman, but the principle that lawyers can defend their clients in the public arena without being accused of defamation by the opposing side. 3 strikes in 1 week. First, discovery limited to February 18th. Second, HR access strictly narrowed. Third, the smear campaign argument against Friedman dismissed. Taken together, these rulings paint a clear picture. The court is reining in Lively's lawsuit, cutting away the excess and forcing her back to the core issues. And that's where the pressure really starts to mount. This case began when Blake Lively filed a lawsuit accusing Wayfair and its associates of orchestrating a deliberate campaign to discredit her. She claimed her reputation had been targeted through back-channel leaks, negative coverage, and online commentary. What made her lawsuit stand out was its scope. Rather than limiting her accusations to direct actions by Wayfair, she attempted to pull in outside voices: journalists, bloggers, even YouTubers. From her perspective, these individuals weren't independent commentators. They were part of a broader conspiracy. But from the very start, legal experts warned, courts are skeptical of claims that attempt to lump critics into corporate conspiracies. And as discovery unfolded, those warnings proved true. Judges began tightening the scope, stripping away arguments that reached too far beyond the central dispute. Now, months later, we're seeing the results. The rulings this week didn't just limit Lively's requests, they reshaped the battlefield entirely. By cutting off discovery after February 18th, the judge forced Lively to build her case on a closed timeline. She can no longer argue that every negative comment or online post is evidence of an ongoing smear campaign. That narrative, one of her strongest rhetorical tools, has been dismantled. The restriction on HR complaints also matters. Without broad access, she cannot paint Wayfair as a company riddled with unrelated scandals. The judge's message was simple: stick to the facts of your own case. And then there's the issue of Perez Hilton. Lively tried to force the celebrity blogger into New York court, claiming he had waived his jurisdiction rights. But the judge firmly disagreed, ruling that Perez remains outside the reach of New York's court system. His battle will be fought in Nevada, where press protections are among the strongest in the nation. That ruling has ripple effects. It signals to other journalists and creators that the court won't allow Lively to drag them into far-flung jurisdictions. Free speech, commentary, and reporting remain protected, even in the face of aggressive legal tactics. Strategically, this weakens Lively's case. Her attempt to frame online critics as extensions of Wayfair has been checked. The more the courts draw these boundaries, the harder it becomes for her to sustain the idea of a vast, coordinated conspiracy. And that raises the critical question: what's left of her lawsuit? This case now stands at a crossroads. For Lively, the walls are closing in. Each new ruling trims away at her sweeping narrative, forcing her to prove her claims with a narrower set of evidence. If she cannot produce concrete proof within those boundaries, her lawsuit could collapse. For Wayfair, the rulings mark a series of victories. They've successfully argued for limits, reined in discovery, and protected their attorneys' right to advocate. Each win strengthens their position, showing that the courts will not indulge expansive fishing expeditions. And for the broader public, this case highlights an even bigger issue: the tension between celebrity lawsuits and free speech. If courts allowed every negative opinion to be treated as part of a conspiracy, the chilling effect on journalists and creators would be enormous. The rulings this week send a clear message: commentary is not conspiracy. So what comes next? Perez Hilton's fight moves to Nevada, where he'll argue for reporter protections. Other creators, like Megyn Kelly and Andy Signore, remain on the periphery, but the rulings suggest their cases may follow a similar path. Meanwhile, Blake Lively faces a narrowing road: the discovery cutoff, the HR limits, the rejection of her claims against Friedman. These are not small setbacks. They are turning points. And if the pattern continues, this lawsuit may not just falter, it could collapse entirely. So we ask you, is the judge protecting fairness in this case, or is Blake Lively being unfairly boxed in? Do these rulings spell the beginning of the end? Or does Lively still have a chance to prove her claims? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest updates. Because if this case moves forward, the next chapter could expose everything